I'm telling you this seriously, almost like a rabbi would. There is one thing you should never do with old clothes, and if you've already done it, you may have been giving away your peace and your luck without even realizing it. In tradition, and also in modern psychology, what you wear absorbs history, struggles, wins, stress, survival. And when you give it away without closure, you create a leak, like a faucet left dripping inside your own home. Slowly, it drains your stability. So pay close attention, because this is where almost everyone gets it wrong. Before you let go of that bag, say quietly to yourself, "What was mine ends here. My luck stays with me." In a moment, I'll explain why this works, both symbolically and psychologically. No cheap mysticism. And I'll give you the full 3-step ritual to donate with peace today. And listen carefully. Step 2 is the one that actually protects you, and 90% of people skip it. But don't just watch this passively. Do it with me. Write in the comments, "My luck stays with me." That locks your intention. Now let's begin. Before I explain why this works on a spiritual and psychological level, I'm going to give you the closure, the simple seal that separates your energy from the clothes in under 1 minute. Because donating isn't the problem. Donating is a beautiful act. The problem is donating without closing the cycle. So do this. Mentally pick one piece of clothing you've already donated, or one you're about to donate. Just think about it for 3 seconds. And repeat with me, calmly, like someone locking a door with the right key. I release this clothing in peace. What belongs to me returns to me. What belongs to it continues its own path. My luck remains with me. Again, slowly. I release this clothing in peace. What belongs to me returns to me. My luck remains with me. That's it. That's the closure. And do you know why this hits so deeply? Because clothes are never just fabric. They walk through seasons of our lives. They carry scent, tears, wins, fear, survival, reinvention. When you give that away without intention, it's like leaving a drawer open in your life. In a moment, I'll show you the 3 leaks that begin in your closet, and why step 2 is the one that truly protects you. But first, let me ask you a direct question. Which piece of clothing, just thinking about it, already feels heavy in your chest? If a piece came to mind and you felt that weight, understand this. That's not just imagination. That's emotional memory. And for many people, it's also spiritual memory. I'm speaking to you with respect. This is not about fear or superstition. It's about awareness. In Jewish tradition, especially in Kabbalistic thought, there's a simple principle. Anything that serves us for a long time absorbs something of us, not because it's magical, but because life leaves imprints. You've felt this before. You put on an old jacket and suddenly a mood, a tightness, a memory, strength, sadness. Now imagine taking clothes that lived through your seasons, your battles, your wins, your hard nights, your fresh starts, and giving them away carelessly, like they're just a bag of stuff. That's where what I call leakage begins. And in a moment, I'll show you the 3 most common leaks that drain your peace, your clarity, and even your ability to move forward. But let me say this clearly, with authority. Donating is not the mistake. The mistake is donating without separation. And here's the promise, simple and direct. In just a few minutes, you'll learn a complete 3-step ritual that works whether you're donating, giving clothes to someone you know, or even discarding what can't be repaired. And if you've donated clothes in the past, relax, you're not doomed. There is a way to close what was left open, and I'm going to show you how. Now I want to ask you a question that reveals a lot more than you think. After you started donating clothes or cleaning out your closet, did your life feel lighter, or did things start to feel stuck? If your answer is stuck, stay with me, because the second leak is the one almost no one notices, and it's exactly the one that makes so many women say, "I don't know what happened, I just started losing my luck." And in a moment, I'll show you the step that works like a padlock, the closure that actually stops the leak. Let's get straight to the point, because this is serious, and I want you to understand it clearly. When you give away old clothes without closure, 3 things tend to happen. I call them the 3 leaks. They're silent. You don't feel them right away, you feel them weeks later, and when you start thinking, something in my life feels off. Leak number 1, your prosperity starts to drain. Think about this. When you drop a bag of used clothes anywhere without intention, without awareness, it's like telling your own subconscious, this has no value, and what I lived has no value either. For many women, especially after 50, this hits deep. Dignity, life story, identity. Clothes aren't just fabric. They touch your skin. They move with your body. They witness your tears. They witness your wins. They absorb what you quietly repeated to yourself for years. And when you give that away without closing the cycle, your inner system reads it as loss, as an energy leak, like leaving a faucet running inside you. That's why some people donate, and weeks later start feeling unexplained exhaustion, low motivation, irritability, a sense of moving backward, small, repeated losses, like bad luck stacking up. And let me be very clear, I am not saying donating is wrong. I'm saying donating without separation is like giving up what's yours, including what you can't see. Leak number 2. You leave an emotional cord tied to the past. This is the leak that affects women the most. Have you ever kept clothes from a painful chapter of your life? Illness, grief, divorce, humiliation, a time when money was tight. Now imagine this. You finally find the courage to bag those clothes and give them away, but you give them away carelessly. You think, that's over. But inside you it's not. Because what keeps you tied isn't the object, it's the bond. And when you don't create closure, you don't end the chapter, you just move the object. The chapter stays open. That's why so many women say, I changed things, but my life didn't change. I cleaned the house, but the energy didn't clear. I let go, and somehow it got worse. Because the past, when it isn't closed, becomes an anchor. And anchors don't announce themselves. They just pull. Lesson number 3, the risk of personal things being misused. Now I'm going to talk about this carefully, without paranoia, but with honesty. Your clothes carry personal markers, scent, skin contact, routine. And many ancient traditions, across different cultures, understood that personal items can create a connection to the person who used them. I'm not saying this happens all the time. I'm not telling you to fear people. I'm saying this, a wise person doesn't expose themselves unnecessarily. You don't give your password to just anyone. You don't hand your ID to a stranger on the street. So why would you give away something intimate, something that lived on your body for years, without any kind of closure? And I'll tell you exactly where this hits hardest. It hits envy. It hits people who take things with bad intentions. It hits people who don't even know what they're carrying, but who have heavy emotional energy and bring that into their own homes. And then you feel that disappearing luck. Not because the world turned against you, but because you left pieces of yourself scattered out there, without a lock, without closure, without a blessing. Now listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you. These 3 leaks have an antidote, and it's not complicated, it's simple, it's direct. It's a 3-step ritual, and step 2 is exactly the closure, the lock that seals the leak. But before I teach it to you, I want to open an important loop, because this will keep you with me until the end. In just a few minutes, I'm going to tell you the story of a woman, ordinary, hard-working, and someone who seemed to be doing everything right, yet her life kept getting stuck in ways no one could explain. And when she finally created the right closure, her life unlocked. And then you'll understand why this isn't superstition. It's a pattern. So tell me this, have you ever donated clothes and then felt like something in your life dropped? Because if you've felt that, what comes next will click like a key turning in a lock. Let me tell you a story that sounds simple, but once you understand what happened here, you'll never donate clothes the same way again. I worked with a woman, let's call her Helen. She's 56 years old, organized, responsible, the kind of woman who takes care of everyone. She was always the strong one in the family. You know that type? The woman who carries the weight of the world without complaining. She came to me for one very specific reason. I can't explain it, but it feels like my life got stuck. She hadn't lost her faith, she wasn't lazy, she wasn't doing anything wrong. But everything, absolutely everything, seemed to slip through her fingers. It was a sequence of small losses, small humiliation, small scares. Individually, they didn't look like much. Together, they became heavy. 1 month, it was the car. Another month, a bill came higher than expected. Then a conflict at home that appeared out of nowhere. And the strangest part, she began to feel emotional exhaustion. Not physical. It was like her soul was tired. One day she said something that stayed with me. It feels like I clean, organize, work, pray, and still peace won't stay. So I asked her a question that sounds simple, but changes everything. Helen, what did you remove from your home recently? She paused, she thought, and then she said, Oh, I made a big donation. I gave away a lot of clothes. And when she said a lot of clothes, I could see in her eyes, it wasn't just clothes. It was a piece of her life. She had gone through a very difficult period a few years earlier, a time of financial pressure, fear, constant struggle, and she kept boxes and bags of clothes from that phase, not because she loved the clothes, but because she was afraid. Afraid of going back there, afraid of not having enough, afraid of needing something and not having it. And one day she decided, enough, I'm going to let go, I'll do the right thing, I'll donate, and that's beautiful. But she did it the way almost everyone does. She grabbed everything, stuffed it into black trash bags, tied them up and dropped them off. No prayer, no closure, no separation, no seal. And here's the most delicate part. She didn't just donate clothes. She donated emotional memory. She donated an old identity. She donated accumulated fear. She donated an open chapter. And within weeks, her life became more unstable. She started having strange dreams, dreams where someone else was wearing her clothes. She started having dreams where she was searching for something and couldn't find it. Dreams where she tried to close a door and the door wouldn't close. And she told me herself, I'm not someone who makes things up, but I started feeling a heaviness in my home. So I asked her, did you donate any piece that was very close to you? Something you wore during important chapters of your life? She answered immediately, yes. A coat I wore during a really hard period, and a dress I wore all the time when I was trying to get back on my feet. That's it. When you hear that, you understand this isn't about fashion. It's about emotional imprint. It's about history. Helen thought she was letting go of the past, but without closure she did the opposite. She scattered the past and stayed tied to it in an invisible way. So I asked her to do something simple that very night. No drama, no exaggeration. Just respect. I said, Helen, you don't need to get the clothes back, you need to get yourself back. And she did a retroactive closure. She lit a white candle. In the US context, this reads as intention, not ritual. She breathed deeply, and she spoke quietly but firmly, like a woman making a decision. What was mine is now complete. I bless whoever received these clothes, but my luck stays with me. My peace returns to me. I close this chapter. Then for a few seconds, she visualized herself cutting a thin golden thread that connected her to those clothes. And at the end, she said something that sounds simple, maybe even silly to some people, but is powerful. Thank you for serving me. I release you and I release myself. Do you know what happened? That night, she actually slept. For the first time in weeks. And in the days that followed, 2 things changed. First, her mind calmed down. That heavy feeling in the house faded. Second, life started unlocking in small but clear ways. A family conversation resolved itself. A situation that had been stuck moved forward. Her mood came back, and she messaged me saying, I can't explain it, but it feels like I closed a faucet. Now listen carefully. This story isn't here to scare you. It's here to show you a pattern. Because what Helen lived through, many women live through, and never connect the dots. That's why in the next part, I'm going to explain clearly what happens on a psychological level and on a symbolic level, without complicating it, and why closure works like a lock. And once you understand this, you'll never look at your closet the same way again. Before I continue, I want to ask you for something very quick, because it creates participation and helps this message reach more women. If you've ever felt that you donated something and life got strange afterward, write in the comments, "I close my cycles." Just that. Now let's understand the mechanism behind this, because what comes next is what truly changes the game. I'm going to explain this in a simple way. No spiritual jargon, no confusion, but with the seriousness this topic deserves. Because when people hear old clothes, they think it's just fabric. But in tradition and in real life, clothes are intimate. They touch the skin. They hold scent. Clothes move through seasons. They hold tears. They witness victories. That's why, in many ancient lines of wisdom, clothing is called the garment of identity, meaning it doesn't just cover the body, it travels with your story. And here's the point that changes everything. 1. The symbolic side. What tradition calls an imprint. From a symbolic perspective, anything that stays close to you for a long time absorbs a trace of your personal field. This isn't cheap superstition. It's a simple principle. Proximity creates imprint. Think about perfume. You walk through a room and the scent lingers. That's not magic. That's residue. With clothes, the logic is similar, but deeper. Because it's repeated, direct contact. So when you donate a piece of clothing without closure, two things happen at the same time. First, you scatter fragments of your personal history into places you don't control. Second, you leave an emotional bridge open to something you thought was finished. And that's exactly why some people donate and later feel, something went missing. My peace dropped. I opened myself too much. It's not the clothes themselves. It's the invisible thread that was never cut. And that's where what we've been calling closure comes in. Closure isn't theater. Closure is a period at the end of the sentence. When you create closure, you're telling your system, this served me. This is complete. This no longer carries me with it. 2. The psychological side. The mind needs completion. Now, from a psychological point of view, this is even easier to understand. The human mind, especially during emotionally intense seasons, creates associations. There are clothes you look at and immediately remember. Grief, a breakup, financial stress, humiliation, or a period when you swallowed a lot on your own. The brain doesn't register that as the past. It registers it as an open file. So when you donate suddenly, without intention, without a minimal ritual, without closure, the mind experiences it as losing a part of yourself without finishing the chapter. And the consequence is interesting. People feel a sense of lack, emptiness, instability. That's why closure works psychologically too. Because it closes the loop in the mind, it sends a clear internal command. I end in peace. I'm not stuck. I don't transfer my pain forward. And when you combine the symbolic layer with the psychological one, it becomes very clear why so many people feel relief after closing the cycle. 3. The real danger isn't donating, it's donating without direction. Now I need to be very clear here, because I don't want confusion. Donating is beautiful. Helping is noble. The problem is when people donate automatically, out of guilt, rush, or pressure, like they're just getting rid of something. Because when that happens, the energy of the act changes. There's a difference between giving as a blessing and giving as disposal. And for this audience, especially women, this hits deep. Because women store history in objects. A woman looks at a piece of clothing and remembers people, remembers seasons, remembers scent, remembers a day. So no, it's not just clothes, and you know that. 4. So what do the wisest people do? The wisest do 3 things before passing any clothing on. They clean it, not just for hygiene, but as a symbol of resetting. They bless it so they don't pass their weight forward. They close it to keep their own peace and luck intact. And I promised you something at the beginning, that I would teach you a simple protocol, just a few minutes, that you can do at home. No money. No dependence on anyone. And I'm going to keep that promise. But before I give you the step-by-step, I need to show you something most people never notice. And this is where almost everyone gets it wrong. Not every piece of clothing ties to you in the same way. Some clothes you wore just to wear. Others absorbed an entire season of your life. And when you learn to identify these charged pieces, you'll understand why some donations feel light and others feel like loss. So, in the next part, I'm going to show you how to recognize the 3 most dangerous types of clothing to donate without closure. I'll be very direct because this prevents a lot of unnecessary suffering. And if you want to protect your home and your luck, write in the comments right now. My luck stays with me. It's simple, but it creates intention, and I want you with me in this. Let's continue. Now pay close attention, because this is what separates people who donate and stay at peace from people who donate and later feel like something left with it. I'm going to show you the 3 most dangerous clothes to pass on without closure, and I want you to listen like a wise woman, as the guardian of your home, your destiny, your energy, because some clothes are just clothes, and some clothes are emotional files. The first, clothes from a hard season. This is the most common and the most ignored. These are the clothes you wore when money was tight, when you cried a lot, when you stayed silent and endured during illness in the family, when you were afraid of the future. Sometimes it's pajamas. Sometimes it's an old t-shirt. Sometimes it's a simple dress you used like armor. You look at it and think, oh, it's nothing. But it is something, because it doesn't carry financial value. It carries memory. And here's a truth many women feel but rarely say out loud. There are clothes that change your mood the moment you touch them. You put them on and your courage drops. You pick them up and the weight comes back. So let me ask you this with respect. Why would you give something like that to someone else while leaving part of that chapter open inside you? That's when you understand what I said earlier. The problem isn't donating. The problem is donating without closing the chapter. The second, intimate clothing and sleepwear, pajamas, nightgowns, underwear, bras, old sheets. Here I'm going to be very direct because this matters. Anything that stays against your skin for hours, and especially during sleep, is deeply intimate. Pajamas are clothes of vulnerability, night clothes, clothes of a tired soul. And do you know why this goes so deep? Because during the day, you're strong. But at night, you're just you. You don't have to agree with me, just think about it. How many nights did you go to bed worried, heart racing? How many times did you lie down and whisper, God, please help me? Those clothes were there. That's why, in many traditions, people don't pass on intimate clothing at all. And when they do it with much greater care. It's not paranoia. It's respect. Women over 50 understand this in their bodies. They've lived too much. They know the weight life places on your shoulders. So here's a simple rule. What was intimate is never given away without closure. The third, clothes of achievement, identity clothes. This one catches a lot of people because almost no one thinks it could be risky. These are the clothes you wore to the job interview that changed your life, a defining event, a season when you finally felt beautiful again, the moment you stood back up after being knocked down. And you might think, but that's a good thing. Exactly. That's why it has power. Because it's connected to a version of you that won. And when you pass that on carelessly, without closure, without intention, without a word, it's like saying inside yourself, I don't value what lifted me up. And here's something important. For many women, clothes aren't vanity. They're symbols. Symbols of self-worth. Symbols of starting over. Symbols of I survived. So when you donate a piece like this, it has to be done the right way. You honor it. You close the cycle. You bless it. Because a woman who honors her symbols protects her destiny. Now I want you to do a quick exercise with me, just in your mind. Think of one piece you've already donated, or one you're about to donate. The first one that comes up. Now answer honestly. Does this piece remind you of a hard season? Was this piece intimate? Does this piece represent a personal win? If the answer is yes to any of these, then you need closure. And I'm going to teach you how, in a practical, simple, and short way. But before that, there's one detail that gives the ritual real power. And this is where most people get it wrong. Most people do closure using pretty words, but without direction. And direction is everything. Because when you give clothing away, you're making a transfer. So what does a wise person do? She says it clearly. I release this piece, and my luck stays with me. That sentence is the center of the closure. The pre-closure, 30 seconds. Before the full ritual, here's a pre-step that already changes everything. Hold the piece in your hands. Look at it for a moment, and say, with a steady voice like someone closing a door, "Thank you for what you did for me. I release you. What is mine stays with me." That's it. You have no idea how much this alone already calms the inside. And in the next part, I'll give you the complete 3-step ritual, simple, quick, and powerful, so you never again feel like your luck leaked because of an impulsive donation. And I'm going to ask you for something because I want to know who's still with me. Write in the comments, "I close my cycles." This isn't just a nice phrase. It's the posture of a woman who respects herself. Now let's go to the ritual. This is what you came for. But understand this first. This is not cheap superstition. This is wisdom passed down. It's emotional hygiene. It's closing cycles. Anyone who has lived long enough knows this. Open cycles become weight. Closed cycles become peace. The 3-step ritual. And yes, it's simple, but it must be done with presence. Step 1. Cleaning and detaching the energy. Wash the piece one last time. If you can, great. If not, that's okay. Wipe it with a damp cloth and take a deep breath before you begin. What matters here is the intention to close. As the water touches the fabric, say, quietly or in your mind, exactly this. I release from this piece everything that is mine. Memories, emotions, fear, and exhaustion. I close this cycle in peace. If you want to strengthen the moment, you can add a pinch of salt to the water. Why? Because across many ancient traditions, salt symbolizes purification and protection. And psychologically, it works like a seal, a clear signal that something is ending. Now comes the part that works especially well for mature women, the part of firmness. Step 2. The closure, separation with authority. Take the clothing in your hands. Hold it for a few seconds, with respect, and now speak like someone who is in charge of her own life. Say this clearly. I release you with gratitude. You no longer carry anything of mine. What is mine stays with me. My luck stays with me. My blessings stay with me. My prosperity stays with me. The visualization, simple and powerful. Now imagine a thin thread of light connecting you to that piece. And imagine a pair of scissors cutting that thread, easily. No force, no struggle, just cut. This is both a psychological and symbolic gesture. You are teaching your brain and your inner world that this is finished. And here is the authority you asked for. When you say this, you are not asking the universe for permission. You are declaring. And a woman who declares with awareness changes the atmosphere. Step 3. Direction. Where is this clothing going? Now comes the step most people ignore, and that's why they later feel like they lost something. You are going to bless the destination of the piece. Say this. May this clothing serve another person with lightness. May they receive the new without carrying my past. And may the good I do return to me multiplied. And here's a very important detail. Avoid donating impulsively, anywhere to anyone without thought. If you can, choose a place or a person you trust. Because donating is also about direction. And direction is what separates healthy detachment from scattered energy. What if I already donated without doing this? Great question. And many people need to hear this with kindness. If you already donated, do not go into guilt. Guilt doesn't repair. Guilt only binds. What repairs is awareness and action. Retroactive closure, 40 seconds. Close your eyes and say, I now end any connection with clothes I donated in the past. I reclaim my energy. I reclaim my luck. I reclaim my blessings. What is mine returns to me, and what was donated me goes free and blessed. That's it. This is retroactive closure. And do you know what this does to your heart? It understands. It's done. Final request. Now I want to ask you for something, and it's not just for engagement. It's because this anchors the message and creates commitment. Write in the comments, "My luck stays with me." Simple. Because when you write it, you take a stand. And I want to see how many women here are guardians of their own lives and no longer live on autopilot. If this made sense to you, leave a like as well, because you'd be surprised how many people are donating clothes with a tight chest and don't even know why. And now I want to leave you with one final message, very direct. Never donate old clothes without closure. You don't need fear. You need awareness. And to close, I want to leave you with a promise and a loop, because the next video is even more serious. In the next one, I'm going to reveal a word that many people say inside their homes thinking it's harmless, but that, in certain traditions, is treated like a magnet for scarcity and conflict. And here's the most dangerous part. Almost everyone says this word without realizing it. So subscribe and turn on notifications, because if you've learned how to close cycles with your clothes, you're ready to close cycles with your words too. And now tell me in the comments, which piece are you going to release the right way today? Shalom.